I have found for me personally, whenever I am lacking that peace or that what I would call balance, whenever I am feeling off balance, at the root of it is almost always an unmet expectation.
Yeah.
Like I am expecting something and it is not happening the way I want it to happen.
Sure. Welcome to the Intertwined Life podcast. I am your host, Jenny Zentz. I am a wife and a mom on a mission. I've got a passion to help women discover practical ways to apply the power of God's word to our everyday stuff. I truly believe that our walks with the Lord should be seamlessly intertwined with our everyday lives. It should affect every move we make and every breath we take. So come on, let's do life together. You've got this, because He's got you. Hey friends, I am so excited to be back with you, and I am so excited to bring you this interview with Sandy Cooper. So she's basically my new BFF, if you will. It was so funny. Sandy and I connected. We'd never met. We had not been on each other's radar. And when we did connect, from the moment we connected our Zoom, literally it was like my long lost best friend. It was so fun. And I think that through this episode, you are going to laugh with us. You might cry with us. You're probably going to laugh at us, but hopefully you're going to be inspired and encouraged. I think you're going to find so much here. Sandy Cooper is a Bible study teacher, a podcaster, a writer, a professionally certified home chef. Her whole goal is to help frazzled women find peace. She's written 3 different books, and her latest one is called Mom, You're Amazing, and Other Things I Want to Tell You. She is found at thescooponbalance.com and the Balanced Momcast. She is such a delight, so much fun. She actually lives in Jacksonville, just about 3 hours from me. The day Sandy and I recorded, we were on the Zoom together for 2 hours, only stopped because she had to go pick up her daughter from school. And that evening, I'm telling Tim all about Sandy and how much we had in common and how much we hit it off. And he says, I am not moving to Jacksonville so you can be with your new best friend. It was so fun. And I really look forward to a continued relationship with Sandy, but I'm so thrilled to be able to bring her to you right here on the podcast. Pop in those earbuds, get a cup of coffee, go for a walk, throw in the laundry, whatever you need to do, but take time to listen to this episode fully, enjoy it, and I know you're going to love all that you find here. All right, Miss Sandy Cooper, welcome to the Intertwined Life podcast.
Oh, Jenny, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you. Thank you for reaching out and the stuff that I've heard. You definitely my people. And
yes, I know. When I saw it, I'm like, she lives near me-ish.
I know.
And then I listened to a couple of your podcasts and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to basically just be repetitive about stuff you've already like said probably a million times on your podcast. So,
that's what it takes, right? And people have to hear things, 10, 12 times before they get it anyway.
That's right. And sometimes hearing it like with a slightly different twist, it's like it clicks for the first time.
And the issues and the struggles and the stuff is still there, right? So it's always new people, always new things and same struggles. So there's nothing wrong with that. I've already done, an intro, but I'll just say it again. Sandy's a wife, a mom, a fellow Floridian. She's author of, is it 3 books?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yes. All on Amazon. I've seen them all. They all look, I don't think you could give me the 3 titles so everyone hears them, because you're our people, as we've been saying.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. The first one is Finding Your Balance. The second one is the voice in my head God or just me? The most recent one is Mom, You're Amazing, and Other Things I Want to Tell You.
Awesome. So we could go in so many directions with Sandy. Today, we're going to be talking about her latest book, which if I use a video, nobody can see it. I'm holding it up, but it feels so good in your hands. Mom, You're Amazing, and Other Things I Want to Tell You. So I'm excited to dig into this and some of the just great tools in here that people listening might enjoy, but I think for me, it's going to be like a little counseling session. I'm just going to sit and let you, let you speak into my life. But you're also the host of the Balanced Momcast. So cool. I kind of want to steal that. That's
I know, isn't it fun? I know. I was so excited when I Googled, when I first started my podcast and saw that name wasn't taken. And I'm like, how can that be? This is brilliant.
This is from the Lord, just for you.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And you're a professional home chef.
I am.
That
I
is
am.
so cool. So
Yeah,
I'll let
it's
you
fun.
start talking. You just tell us a little more about yourself, what you do, your family, hobbies, all the good stuff, and what led you to where you are in life right now before we dive into the book.
Okay, yeah, that's a huge question.
I
Like
know.
what, like, considering I'm 53 years old. So like,
No,
okay,
no,
I was
pause,
born. Yeah, no,
pause.
yeah,
Are you really?
I am.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to use video because you look, I mean, seriously,
Aw,
we need you to tell us what you use and what you do and what you eat. Oh my gosh. Okay,
that's hilarious.
53 is not old, by the way, at all. Like
No, it's not.
73 is not old to me,
No,
but you do not look 53.
I'm very happy to. I
Amazing.
figure we can just cut this right here, and this can be the podcast. It's a wrap.
Done.
That's right. Sandy looks young. Just do it there.
Don't miss this
Okay.
episode.
That's right. Don't miss the next episode of Intertwined Life with Jenny Sense and young looking Sandy Cooper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and her
okay.
younger sister.
Younger sister. Oh my gosh. It's going to be like the longest podcast if we don't answer your question. Okay. The answer to your question is, okay, so I'm, as you stated, I'm a wife to John. We've been married for 28 years. Awesome. And we have 4 children. I never know whether, I figured we're going to talk for a while, so I will get into the details of Noah's situation. Yes. So I'll just talk about, briefly introduce, and then we can go back and fill in wherever you want to. But my oldest son, Noah, was born in 1997, and he died when he was 9 months old. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks after he died, I got pregnant with my daughter, Rebecca. Oh, wow. And she is now 23. Mm-hmm. And then I have Elijah, who's 20, who came to our family through domestic adoption. And as an infant, I was in the room when he was born. And then we have Eliana, who is 15. She is a freshman, and she also came to our family through adoption, but she came as a toddler from Guatemala. Oh, wow. And yes. So
my mom does mission work in Guatemala. So that's super cool.
It's such a
we
beautiful
have so many
country. We do have a lot of connections. Yeah. So yeah, I'm home with them. But I also, as you stated, I'm a Bible study teacher and writer. The first 2 books that I wrote were Bible studies. And then I have the podcast. I podcast weekly at the Balanced Momcast. I have been a women's ministry leader, but we recently, actually at the height of the pandemic, relocated from Kentucky, where we lived for 16 years, to Jacksonville, Florida, where we currently live. So not currently, we're plugged in at a church, but not in that serving capacity. Sure. And then, yes, the certified home chef thing, that is, so when we moved here, and I, for the first time in my life, found myself not, overwhelmed with a lot of outside, like no one was expecting anything of me because I wasn't plugged in yet. And it was the pandemic still. Exactly. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go to culinary school. And so I found this amazing, world-renowned online certification. It was 6 months. It was a 6-month program when I took it, but they have now extended it to the nine months. So I still have the 3 more months that of the additional that they added after I graduated. But it's a plant-based chef, professional plant-based chef certification. But
I just switched to a plant-based lifestyle like 6 months ago. So, oh my gosh, Sandy, we have
I know, it's like we're best friends.
We are.
It's like we needed to find each other. Yes. And yeah, and so in answer to your question, why do I look the way I do? I 100% attribute it to eating a plant-based diet. 100%.
And amen.
Yeah. Oh, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I will never go back. I've never felt better in my life. So, so I can't call myself like a professional chef, because technically, in order to be a professional chef, you have to have worked in restaurants under certain conditions in order to like own that title. Sure. So that's why I'm a professionally certified home chef, because my family is the one who gets to, and whoever eats at my house gets to.
That's awesome.
Benefit
from all your skills. Culinary genius.
Exactly. Well, I don't know how genius, but definitely culinary. Yeah. I mean, my family, they were such troopers during that whole thing, because, I have a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old in the house. And some of the food that I was cooking, I had never even tried. I didn't even, every day was like a trip to the grocery store trying to find ingredients with like my phone, like, what is this? And I love to cook. And so
Yeah.
I was, and I already knew how to cook. So when things were unfamiliar to me, I was like, uh-oh. And so every night the rule was, you know what, kids, you do not have to eat this. But I have to cook it for school. So and every single night, my kids not only ate it, but I mean, I would say over the 6-month period, there were probably only 1 or 2 things that they were like, I don't think I'd want that again.
Oh,
And I was like,
wow.
they were troopers.
Good for them.
So yeah,
That's
good for
awesome.
them. Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but I was really happy
It
about
was
it.
meant
So
to be.
yeah, yeah, for sure. For
That's
sure.
awesome.
So yeah, that's a big overview of my family and my life.
Wonderful. How long have you been doing your
Yep.
podcast?
It was 3 years in March.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Let's see. When did I start? I started in February of 2020. So I just hit just over 2 years. And I
Okay.
started before the pandemic was a pandemic, right? I mean,
Right.
we over here in the States in Florida really didn't know
Yeah.
anything about COVID at that time. And
It's
so it
true.
just kind of, people are like, oh, is it a pandemic, baby? And I'm like, no, I had been
And you're
planning
like,
this sucker
no.
for a long time.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
worked out
Well,
that
and
way.
it takes a lot of time, and the pre-production prep and even if you're anything like me, like I was thinking about it and
Oh, yeah.
dreaming about it long before
Oh, yeah.
anyone ever. I mean, it was a year probably
Yeah.
of me just like the wheels turning and what would my show be and what, yeah.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I don't think anyone has any idea who doesn't do podcasts, like what it takes.
Yeah, just convincing myself to push publish was hard enough, right? It's like,
For sure.
because it's never going to be good enough. But
Right.
yeah, I think I had 3 episodes recorded for at least 6 months before I ever pushed publish. I was like,
Yeah, I was listening to one of your podcasts where you talked about that. And
Okay.
yeah, I was wondering what the fear was. Like, what were you afraid of?
Yeah.
See,
It's
I'm
the
going to interview
perfectionist
you.
thing. Yeah, interview
Yeah.
me. It's the perfectionist thing. It's that that one of my favorite quotes, and it's been attributed to so many people, that really
Yeah.
helped me is, do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yes.
And done is better than perfect and never started, right?
Yes.
So to me, that was what it was. It was so much unknown, so much intimidation, wanting when I do something for it to be really, really good, right? And so having so many unknowns, and still so many unknowns, because I am not tech savvy at all. I mean, at all. So just the intimidation factor of all the things. But finally it was like, you know what? Just get it going, just get it going. And that was the best thing, just starting. And sometimes that's the hardest part. So in a nutshell, that's really what it was. But I have a great counselor too. So we're working through the perfectionist issue.
That's nice. Well, my first book, Finding Your Balance, I have a whole chapter on perfectionism, because that is like one of the biggest barriers to balance. It was for me anyways, but I know a lot of women who struggle with perfectionism, and it is, a lot people who don't understand perfectionism, haven't lived with it. They don't really understand how debilitating it is.
I always say paralyzing, right?
It is. It's paralyzing. And because there's such an all or nothing mentality to it. And the procrastination factor is
Oh
like,
my gosh.
it is so hard. And then when you do finally do, hit play, the proverbial hit play, the level of detail that you'll go into it's such a waste of time. Like, it's hard to move through anything quickly, because everything and people, people who don't struggle will often like joke like, ooh, I wish I was a perfectionist. And I'm like, no, you don't really understand. Like, it is really, really debilitating. Like, if you it's something you need to break free from if you have it.
Because
it's not a trait to
admire.
Yeah,
it's not, because to other people, if it looks perfect and like we're accomplishing a lot, to us it never feels like enough. And I don't know enough about Enneagram, but I know I'm type 1, and that's the whole self-critic thing and all this stuff. So that all ties in there for sure. And that really does segue well into your new book, because you do talk about lies that moms believe, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But I know that obviously that is some of it, especially for me. But one thing, I mean, why don't you just tell us, kind of start off with so many great directions we could talk about, like we said, but in the intro, you said, if you could summarize your mothering journey in one word, it would be unexpected. Yeah. So can you kind of open that up for us a little bit?
Yeah. So, I always expected to be a mom. So I don't mean that necessarily. I know a lot of women come upon parenting unexpectedly. Okay, that wasn't my story. I was the kid who played with baby dolls till she was 13. So like always wanted to be a mom, always wanted to be married. That was the life I wanted. But when I was 33 weeks pregnant with my first son, he stopped moving. And so I went into the hospital, and after monitoring him for some time, they took him by emergency C-section. When he was born, he had suffered in utero a grade 4 brain hemorrhage. And so it damaged over 70% of his brain. And they told us that he was essentially brain dead, that he would never see, hear, suck, swallow, recognize us as mom or dad, that if he ever did come home from the hospital, which they stressed repeatedly, he probably wouldn't, and he probably, wouldn't live, that he would need 24-hour-a-day nursing care in our home. And they advised us to take him off life support. And so my husband and I are believers. And so we decided, we very much took seriously what they said, and we understood, the medical diagnosis was a real thing, but we wanted to give him his best chance at survival. And so we decided not to take him off life support. And of course we prayed that God would heal him. And 3 weeks after they gave us that diagnosis, which was, he was 6 weeks old, he came home from the hospital. He had passed his sight test. He had passed his hearing test. He was taking all of his feeds by bottle, my breast milk that I was expressing. And he was doing everything that they said he wouldn't do. He was off of the respirator. He was off of oxygen. He didn't even come home with an apnea monitor. Wow. And so he came home, and the hospital said that, it was a medical miracle. They wouldn't say miracle, but they said medical miracle. And they attributed it to our great faith, and because they really never saw that he would do anything. And so when he was almost 9 months old, we had traveled up to Ohio. My parents were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and we took Noah up there, and all of a sudden he wouldn't eat. He became really limp and lethargic. We took him to the hospital again, and over the next 6 days, they kept doing test after test. They couldn't figure out what was going on, and he ended up dying in the hospital.
Gosh, Sandy.
Yes. And so we did not know, like, that he died without us knowing at the time what had happened. Yeah. And so then a few weeks after Noah died, well, exactly a month after Noah died, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, Rebecca. Mm-hmm. And when I was 25 weeks pregnant with her, the results of Noah's autopsy came back, as well as they had looked at scans and things of my uterus and my placenta from his birth, because they never diagnosed what happened at his birth either. And we were told that two things. One was that the reason he was born early and had the brain hemorrhage was because I had a rare condition in my placenta called maternal floor infarction, and that once you have it, it is almost guaranteed that you have it in all subsequent pregnancies, meaning that I had it currently. And then the other news that we got was that John and I were carriers of a recessive gene mutation, and that Noah died from a metabolic disorder called Elchad, which is essentially, when you and I don't have food in our stomach, our body naturally metabolizes fat stored on our body. That's how people live. Mm-hmm. That's why you can go days without eating and you can still be alive. A child who has an inborn error of metabolism can't metabolize certain fats. And so Noah couldn't metabolize long chain fats. And when there's no symptoms, the symptoms are coma and death, which is why they weren't able to, diagnose it. And at the time, well, now I should say, most states, I do think all the states now screen for this as part of the like routine newborn screening.
Okay.
But at the time when Noah was born, the state we lived in, which was Florida at the time, they did not screen for it. So there you can screen for it, but even if you have it, like it's really, a lot of these kids don't live very long, and so they told us anyways. That's another whole thing. So now I find out that the baby that I'm pregnant with, not only does I realize now that I'm like almost guaranteed that I have this problem with my placenta with this baby.
Yeah.
And now I have a 1 in 4 chance that the baby I'm carrying is now affected by this disease, a 1 in 4 chance that she's not affected at all, and a 50% chance that she is a carrier and that she will have to deal with it at some point if she has kids, and the baby's father is also a carrier. Yeah. And my husband and I, for the record, we both come from families of 7 kids, and we are very healthy people.
Never saw that coming.
Never expected to have a child die or sick or anything. You do everything right. And so I took very good care of myself in my pregnancy, and I'm very health conscious. I've always been athletic. And so, yeah, it was just, big, unexpected blow. And then when I had my daughter, and she, thank God, is the 25% unaffected by the disease. So she, as I said at the beginning, she just turned 23. So, and she was just here visiting. She lives out of town. She's in school in Indiana. So she literally just left late last night. And so I'm like a little fuzzy right now, because I'm like, I've been with her for like, almost a week. It's been great. So yeah, so that was very unexpected. And then, we decided not to play the genetics lottery anymore, because those odds are horrible.
And the anxiety that it places on you.
100%.
That's just,
it's a lot. So, then, we decided to adopt Elijah. And then 5 years later, we decided to adopt Eliana. And, anyone who's listening, who has ever encountered adoption, like the amount of work and expense that is, it's just really, really hard to adopt a baby. It's just really hard. And so that, again, like just not expecting to have to deal with all that. And then, as every parent knows, birth is not, it's the beginning of parenthood, and so now you have to deal with everything that the kids bring into life. And unfortunately, one of my children has dealt with depression and anxiety since she was very small. And my son has been diagnosed with ADHD, and he's on the autism spectrum with very high functioning Asperger's. And both of those things, all of those things in my kids went undiagnosed for years, until both of them were in middle school. Oh, wow. And so they, I always knew that things were hard. Like they felt harder for me. And I already struggle with that enough. Like I already feel like things are sometimes harder for me than they are for other people. And it's one of the lies the enemy always says to me, is like, you're the only one who doesn't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And so
weak and
right. And so I always felt like I was already struggling in parenting, but then I would look at my kids and just think, is it really this hard? Because these kids because behaviorally, they have neurological problems, which I did not know at the time. They were undiagnosed, but those neurological problems present themselves behaviorally. Yeah. And so I would be doing all the things. If you could see my stack of parenting books of me just trying to figure it out and trying to get it right. And why do my kids not respond to this stuff that everybody else's kids are responding to this? This is how you respond to a temper tantrum. This is how you respond to kids not listening to you the first time. This is how, all those things. So I realized then I was actually dealing with, very serious neurological, and often not just serious, but in the case of my daughter, sometimes they got very dangerous, because as depression and anxiety presents itself in, teens, and, it can get frightening. And so I would say the unexpected portion, and what the reason why I opened my book with that is because my parenting journey has not looked like a Pampers commercial. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
it hasn't been, and I don't know many parents who it has, but it hasn't been typical. It hasn't been easy. Um, and and to be clear, like, I'm not a parenting expert, but I have spent the last 25 years trying to learn how to surrender my expectations to the Lord and strengthen myself in Him
Yeah.
so that I can show up and be the mom that He has called me to be, because He's given me these kids.
Mhm.
And really the whole vibe of the book is, I knew if I needed that kind of encouragement, that, like, you know what, you're really doing a much better job than you think you are, and you really are an amazing mom, that, like, most of the things I wrote in the book were pep talks that I needed to give to myself,
Mhm.
because often I didn't feel like a good mom. I felt like I was failing my kids, because of the unexpected
Yeah.
trauma that just never let up. It just never, I every time one thing would feel like it would resolve, something new would come up. And I just thought, wow, this whole thing has been a wild ride, and we're not done. So,
Oh,
so
sure,
it is currently a
sure.
wild ride.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by unexpected.
Yeah. But that's just it. Man, God qualifies us in the most unexpected ways, right?
Mhm.
Because, oh, there's so much purpose in our pain. And we'd
Yeah.
never ask for it. We'd never want it, but we couldn't grow like we
Mm-mm.
do if we didn't have it. And
Right.
now look, because you gave him your mess, you gave him the brokenness, you
Mhm.
gave him the pain and said, do with it what you will and what you can.
Right.
And now look, books, podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
using you in so many ways that a happy, perfect suburban life, white picket fence and no issues, doesn't relate to people quite like what you've been through.
Mhm.
What you wouldn't have
Right.
asked for that, but
No.
you would have never also had the platform, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
to reach so many people. And if
Exactly.
we step back and, as hard as it is, reflect that what it's really all about is his glory and his kingdom
Mhm.
come here on earth, right?
Right.
And then it's like, well, and as hard as it is to believe, this world is not our home and it's actually a blip on the screen
Mhm.
of the grand picture. And
That's right.
you'll see Noah, and I've got a little, I
Mm.
think, guy. I think it's a boy. We lost
Mm.
one about in pregnancy,
I'm
and
sorry.
that's my one regret. If anybody's listening, this is
Yeah.
the one piece of advice I have for anyone. When they ask you, do you want us to do the test or to tell you if it's a boy or a girl, just tell them,
Just say yes.
just say yes. I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm over it. I mean, I'm not over it, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Of
okay with
course.
it. I have
Right.
peace about it. But
You
at the
wish you
time
would
I thought,
have.
yeah, at the time I thought it would make
Yeah.
it harder to
Yeah.
know if it was a boy or girl. So I'm, no, I don't want to know. And now I'm like, why didn't I,
Right.
why? And I didn't tell them to find out and tell me later. But anyway, that's a whole thing. But,
Yeah.
but
Oh, wow.
when we get there, all of these trials and this pain, and as Paul calls it, our momentary suffering, which
Yep.
doesn't feel momentary in the moment. We do
No.
not in any
Or
way.
light. Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna say. We don't
Yeah.
make light of any of this,
Yeah. No.
because it is hard and it is heavy
Yeah.
and it is painful and it sucks, right?
Yeah.
I
It
mean, it
does.
just does.
That's a good word for it.
I mean, it just does. There's no other way to say it. But man, when we give it back to him, that's where the power, that's where
Mhm.
the strength comes from. That's where we see him come alive like never before, like we couldn't have seen
Right.
otherwise, right?
That's right. Oh, yeah. I don't even know who I would be if I hadn't have gone through all that. And
Yeah.
again, like you said, I would have never chosen it, but God has used, and because I begged him, I'm like, don't waste this. Like, don't,
Yes.
it was the worst thing it was my worst fear,
Yes.
and please don't waste it.
Yes.
And not that God is wasteful, but I didn't know what he would do with it, because I thought also God would heal him. He already healed him once. Why didn't you heal him a second time? And so
Mhm.
it was this, like, simultaneous journey. Another whole aspect of unexpected is, like, I expected God to heal my son. He already did. I thought our ministry was going to be to, because people were calling us like, "Oh, we heard your baby was healed. Will
Yeah.
you pray for our child?" And, we were called to, like, speak at churches, and,
Oh, Sandy.
I mean, and so now we're the family with the dead baby.
Mhm.
And what do you do with that? Like,
Mm.
what do you do with that? And so it I don't, and I know you didn't ask this question, but I don't know where my faith would be. I don't know. I mean, those scriptures that talk about trials really refining you and testing your faith, because that's the thing that God is after. Like your faith is more precious to him than anything. Until you're tested in your faith, it's not really faith.
Yeah.
Like, it's not faith at all.
Because you don't need faith when things are easy.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So like, I don't even know who I would be.
Yeah.
Were it not for, if my parenting journey hadn't started like that, I don't even know what kind of mom I would be. I mean, I can't, when it starts that way and you are forced immediately to go straight, quite literally, onto your face and beg God, like that's how we started. And so, now I don't even know what people do who don't have things that test them in that way. Not that I would ever wish it on anyone. Oh my gosh, no. Like, and if I could have had it any other way, I certainly would have wanted, I would love to just still be with, all of my kids and not have them suffer at all. But it's something, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And I think though if anyone's listening and they're going through something that is so painful and seems to be in vain, seems to be meaningless and just hurtful for the sake of being hurtful, right? And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to grieve and feel that. But I think it's just, the message is there is hope and there is purpose in pain and there's something on the other side. Keep walking. Just keep going, walking, keep getting back up, right? Oh me. Okay. Well, we could stick here forever.
I know. I just want to keep going. I'm just going to let you tell me where we're going next.
We can make at least 5 different episodes out of what we're going to do here today. Thank you so much. No, but thank you for sharing all of that too.
Yeah.
So talking about unmet expectations and unexpected things, and your book here where you're talking to moms and you're encouraging moms, what role do you think that these unmet expectations, because a lot of people enter into parenthood or marriage. For me, I very much entered into marriage expecting to be awesome at it and then not being so awesome at it.
Yes, that's another part of our story that's very similar. By
okay.
Yeah. I heard you talk about the first 3 years and I was like, for us, it was my husband and I have an ongoing joke, and I'll let you finish your question, but I just have to say this. Okay. So we've been married, 28 years, and it has been an ongoing joke. Like, if people say, how long have you been married? We say 28 years, the best 26 years of our lives, because we always subtract the first 2, because the first 2 are horrible.
I mean, sometimes, but don't they make the next ones to come even better? Like,
sure,
the stuff that we got through, would we ask for it? No, but we wouldn't be as strong as we are, right? So
that's right.
It's so true. It all gets used. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it really does.
Oh,
it really does.
And now we can help other people with their issues, even though we still have our own, right?
Here we are. Yes, but we can help those behind us. We do. We have hope. It's so true.
Gosh. No, but so with the same thing with parenting though, what role do you see those unmet expectations? Like, how do they play into our ability to have a purposeful, intentional, meaningful life? Or,
sure.
You use the word balanced. I'd love for you to explain how you define balance.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of ways to look at that. But what role do you think those unmet expectations play in that?
Yeah. And that the key is how to define balance, because, I've heard a lot of Christian women who I love will say balance is a myth, balance is a unicorn, balance is impossible, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't think that, because I define balance as the peace that you have when you know what your priorities should be and you are living a life in alignment with those priorities. And because I'm a believer in Christ, I believe that he gives us gifts and talents and opportunities, and we are operating in those things with a right heart, with a right attitude, in season.
Yes.
And so it's the peace we get when we're living that way. Okay. And so is that possible? It's 100% possible. How expectations can mess with that is that if we have, unrealistic expectations, and sometimes we don't even know what they are, but it can be something, small, like I expect when I talk to my son that he's going to put the phone down and look me in the eye. Okay. It can be something like that can totally throw me off. Or it can be something huge. Like I expect when I take good care of myself that I'm going to have a healthy baby that's going to live.
Yeah.
Or it can be something that is directed toward God. I expect that when the Bible says that I can pray for this mountain to be removed and cast into the sea, or that, Jesus took stripes for my healing, that when I pray for my son to be healed, that God will do it. And so when I have found, for me personally, whenever I am lacking that peace, or that what I would call balance, whenever I am feeling off balance, at the root of it is almost always an unmet expectation. Yeah. Like I am expecting something and it is not happening the way the way I want it to happen.
Sure.
So that, to me, I think that they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. And I feel like there's so much, like the word seasons can be funny because we use it so much. But
right. It's so trite. It's like journey.
Yeah. Yes.
Journey and seasons. Way overused.
But it's so true, right?
But they're true. That's right. You need to use them sometimes. There's no better word. Yeah.
I think I was actually in an interview yesterday talking about balance and about, maybe the illusion of balance, but I was saying that I felt like balance, like you said, it's all in how you define it. I don't think balance means all things being equal. It means all things being as they should be.
Right.
Yes.
That's good.
The priority and the weight being where it should be for that season. And sometimes it's heavier on the family, and sometimes it's heavier on the work, and sometimes it's heavier on the marriage, and because of different seasons. Right. And it's constantly balancing things out. Right.
Yes.
And it's not just two sides. It's many sides.
And I will say, I spend the whole introduction of finding your balance, saying all the things balance is not. And I name all those things, it doesn't mean doing everything equally. It doesn't mean doing everything in a day. I mean, I used to try to define balance. It's like, if I had one of those days where I, check all the way down, then it was a balance day. And that almost never happened. But I have found that when I think of balance more like a pendulum, where there's a rhythm.
Yes.
And, and then it can go crazy off into one direction, and you can still be extremely well balanced right where you're supposed to be. And I always think of, like, when you bring an infant home, that is the craziest, most quote unbalanced time in the life. But when you are going all in, you've got to give your 100% for this period of time when this infant is literally depending on you. You're not getting any sleep. The baby's going to die if you don't take care of it, like quite literally.
Yeah.
And you have got to go all in. People are bringing you meals. You're not taking showers. Your house looks like crap. Like but you're seriously in one of the most balanced states.
Yeah.
Because if you were trying to also do 10,000 other things during that time, that would be a lack of balance.
Yeah.
So yes, the season means everything.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
All right, friends, I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I did. To be completely honest with you, the entire interview, like I said, is almost 2 hours and it's so good. But to spare you the feeling of being overwhelmed, I will pause things here and be back in 2 weeks with the second part of my interview with Sandy, and you do not want to miss it. So enjoy this one, share this one, rate and review the podcast if you haven't, because that means so much to me, and I will catch you in 2 weeks. Hey friend, if you enjoyed this episode and you got some good stuff out of it, there's a few options you have. One, you could click that little subscribe button, because let's be honest, who's got time to remember to check back and see if there's a new episode, right? So click that subscribe button, and then when a new episode comes up, it will just, by the magic of the internet, pop up in your Dropbox, and it'll be right there for you whenever you're ready. And also, if you would review this podcast, oh my gosh, if you like what you heard, get on there, give it a 5-star review. If you didn't like what you heard, just pretend it never happened, okay? But if you would do a review for me, just take a couple seconds and do that. Not only would I be crazy excited, but also it would just be a great way for us to partner together, for you to help this podcast be seen by more women out there. And you could be a part of helping more women discover these practical ways to apply God's word to just everyday stuff. So I would love it, love it, love it if you could help me out in one of those 2 ways.